what we mean by resilience is actually the capacity that each one of us has to bounce back from something that was a really hard experience, something traumatic, or any sort of adversity, right? So as much as resilience involves bouncing back, it actually also profoundly impacts us because of personal growth. So when we're looking at resilient skills, we're actually looking at growing personally from the life experiences that we've had that have been particularly difficult. Now, this is actually one of my favorite slides because I think there's kind of a misunderstanding or a misperception that resilience is just something that some people have. They're just a resilient person and I'm not. And that is actually not the case. And research shows this over and over again. So what does resilience actually involve? It involves behaviors. So habits, practices, skills, behaviors, thoughts, and actions that anyone can actually learn and cultivate. It is not the select few that are, born with resilient traits. It's actually all of us, all of humanity. It is not personality or ability driven, right? Just because I'm a certain kind of extrovert, I'm not more resilient than somebody else. And the ability to learn resilience. So key word is we actually learn resilience. It's not innate. Is one reason actually that research has shown that resilience is actually in fact very ordinary and nothing extraordinary. Really important to keep in mind, especially when we're working with trauma survivors. This is important for people to realize, right? That it's not just that one person is going to be able to bounce back from trauma differently. That is true because of the resources available to them, but innately, we have this capacity to all be resilient. We're looking at actually having some coping strategies across 3 of these domains. So the 3 domains are cognitive, body-based, somatic, and the relational. I like to highlight this because we're actually all really, really good at one of these 3 categories. For a really long time, before I understood that the body was as important as the mind, my go-to was always the cognitive strategies, right? I wanted to read more about something and I found that was really helpful, or really I can tune in, understand my feelings, name them, right? Still all in the cognitive realm. But when you look at the body-based or the somatic, we're actually looking at strategies that can kind of kickstart our parasympathetic nervous system, right? So good example of this is when you're feeling really restless or anxious, if you take an ice pack and put it on your chest, you can't actually feel anxious and be cold at the same time. Another example of this is actually running really fast. Even if you're standing in place and running really fast and getting your cardio up, it's really hard to be anxious and bring your cardio up at the same time. So there are some good tricks in terms of how you kind of recharge the body or stop a cycle of anxiety. So that's all body-based. And then lastly, relational, right? We sometimes forget and take for granted that we can actually connect with people. Who are these people in our life that we can easily call? So one thing I do periodically is, in my phone, you can have on your, like your phone address book, you can have favorites. And I always look at who are the people on my most called list or my favorites, who haven't I reached out to in a really long time. And sometimes I find that reaching out to somebody who I'm actually very close to, maybe haven't talked to in a long time, can give me a lot more energy quite immediately.